Now, let's get to my question of the day, the poll question of the day. Who wins the AFC East? And here are the results. 67% believes the Buffalo Bills will win the AFC East. Patriots, 0%. Dolphins, 33%. Jets, 0%. So Buffalo Bills get majority of the votes. So most people believe they are the favorites in the AFC East. Now, last year in the AFC East, the Bills won the division. They finished 11-6 on the season. The Patriots, they finished 10-7. The Dolphins finished 9-8, and the Jets finished 4-13. And this is Vegas odds for who's going to win the AFC East. You got the Buffalo Bills. They are a minus 215. The Patriots, they are a plus 450. The Dolphins, plus 450. The Jets are a plus 2,000 to win the AFC East. So, in this division, the Buffalo Bills are the class of the AFC East. For many, many years, the New England Patriots, they were the class of the AFC East. They had Tom Brady, GOAT, leading them at quarterback, and they also were led by the greatest coach in NFL history in Bill Belichick. So they were the favorites for many, many years in the AFC East. But now, because you got Josh Allen at quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, many people believe that the Buffalo Bills will be the favorites in the AFC East for future seasons to come. And I actually agree. Because when you got a great young quarterback like Josh Allen, you're going to be a Super Bowl contender year in and year out. I mean, last year, Josh Allen, he had 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He had 4,407 passing yards. He completed 63% of his passes. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, arguably top 5, depending on who you ask. Josh Allen is great. And last year, the Buffalo Bills, they didn't make it to the AFC Championship game, and they lost in the divisional round of the playoffs, 42-36. But they didn't lose because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen was sensational last year in the postseason. This is just the playoffs. Josh Allen, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 637 passing yards, completing 77% of his passes. The Bills damn sure didn't lose because of Josh Allen. That's one thing we know. I saw Josh Allen go throw for throw with Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead last year. We always talk about quarterbacks and their impact on whether or not a team wins or loses a game. Because I'm a Packers fan and I've watched Aaron Rodgers for so many years in the playoffs carry the Green Bay Packers past where they were supposed to be, because there were years where the Packers didn't deserve to be as far as they were in the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers dragged them through the playoffs to where they were. There were times the Packers should have been a first-round exit, and Aaron Rodgers dragged them to the NFC Championship game. So I'm one of those people that when I watch quarterbacks play at an elite level, even in a loss, I recognized and I see it's not how you go down, it's about how it happens. Like it's not about necessarily, because you're going to lose games, right? You're going to lose games, and you're going to, it's not about whether or not you go down. It's about how you go down. That's what I meant to say. It's about, you're going to lose games when you play hard. And I thought last year Josh Allen was sensational in that playoff game against Patrick Mahomes. He gave the Buffalo Bills defense an opportunity where they only had to keep Patrick Mahomes out of field goal range. And Patrick Mahomes, in 13 seconds, got the Kansas City Chiefs in field goal range. So I thought Josh Allen did everything he could to lead the Buffalo Bills to the AFC Championship game last year. He just came up short. But when I look at this Buffalo Bills team, their running backs are interchangeable with Devin Singletary and James Cook. He's the brother of Vikings running back Dalvin Cook. They got Zach Moss. So Zach Moss, James Cook, Devin Singletary, they're interchangeable. There's no primary back in the Buffalo Bills backfield yet. So they're interchangeable. Now, I do like their receivers. Stephon Diggs, he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Last year, he had a great season. 103 receptions, 1,225 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. So we know Stephon Diggs is a top 10 receiver in the NFL, even dating back to his days when he played in Minnesota. But also they got Gabriel Davis. And remember last year in the playoff game against the Chiefs, Gabriel Davis had the game of his life. 8 receptions, 201 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. You still got Isaiah McKenzie. You still got Dawson Knox at tight end. The Buffalo Bills O-line, it's decent. It's not great. It's not bad. It's average. You got an average offensive line. That's the one question that I have about their offense. It's their O-line. They're average. So, again, I like Stephon Diggs at receiver. Their running backs are interchangeable, but they got Josh Allen. And when you got a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, you're going to be contenders, not only in your division, but in your entire conference. Now, defensively, they're going to be bringing back Tre'Davious White. I saw earlier that he's going to be on the PUP list. So he's going to miss the first 4 games of the season, but he's going to return back at some point. He's going to be in the secondary for the Buffalo Bills. You still got Jordan Poyer, who's looking for a new contract. You still got Micah Hyde, who I believe in, former Packer. And then their D-line, they should be better. They brought in Von Miller in free agency. You got Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones up front. So their D-line should be better. But this team gave up 42 points in the playoff game last year against the Chiefs. They're going to have to be able to get stops at key times if they want to be true Super Bowl contenders. You can get through the AFC East with a bad defense and a great offense. You can get through the AFC East with that because the AFC East, outside of the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, they don't have much competition in the AFC East. When you get to the playoffs, you got to go up against teams like Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, like Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, like Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Derek Carr and the Raiders. The list goes on and on and on. You're going to need a solid defense to get key stops at key times to win football games. So they can get through the AFC East with a bad defense, but not through the AFC conference. They'll struggle to get to the Super Bowl. But this defense has to improve. I mean, they got to improve this year. They are led by defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier. Leslie Frazier has a bunch of experience in the NFL. He was a coach in Minnesota at one point in his career. So Leslie Frazier knows his football. He knows his football. But I look at the Buffalo Bills, their first 7 games of the season. It's going to be tough for the Buffalo Bills. This is a tough start to the season. They're at Rams. This is the Thursday night kickoff of week 1 of the NFL season. Then they're home against the Titans. That's on Monday Night Football. At Miami. At Baltimore. Home against the Steelers. At the Chiefs. And then they got a bye week 7. That's a tough first 7 games. The 7th game will be against the Packers in week 8. They got a bye week in week 7. So they're at Rams, home against the Titans, at Dolphins, at Ravens, home against the Steelers, at Chiefs, bye week 7, week 8, they're home against the Packers. That's a tough first 7 games. If the Buffalo Bills can go 4-3, 5-2, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you happy with that in the first 7 games. Because that's a tough opening schedule. Tough opening schedule for the Buffalo Bills. This year they play the NFC North and the AFC North. Their over-under for their wins this year are 11 and a half. That's what Vegas has it at. I'm going to go over. I think the Buffalo Bills will win 12 or 13 games this year. I can see them finishing 12-5 or 13-4. So I got them going over 11 and a half. That's what Vegas got their win totals at for the season. Now, when you look at their schedule in the middle of the season, after those first 7 games, they got the Vikings, Browns, Lions, Patriots, Jets. I believe they can win all 5 of those games. Vikings, Browns, Lions, Patriots, Jets. They had the Jets week 9 too. So they got, after the Packers game in week 8, they're at the Jets, home against the Vikings, home against the Browns, at Lions, at Patriots, at Jets. They'll beat the Jets both of those games. The Bills are better than the Patriots, so they'll beat the Patriots in New England, and then they'll beat the Lions. I can say with confidence that the Bills in that 6-game stretch, they'll go 5-1. At worst, they might go 6-0 because they give me the Bills are better than the Jets. The Bills are better than the Vikings. The Bills are better than the Browns. They're better than the Lions. They're better than the Patriots and Jets. They're better than all of those teams. So as tough as their first 7 games are, the middle of their schedule is favorable. It's favorable for the Bills to go on a run and get into the playoffs. So they can go 5-2, 4-3 in those first 7 games. I think their next 5 games, they'll go 5-0, at worst 4-1. And I think they'll be good. Now, let's go to the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, their over-under is at 8.5. I'm going under here for the New England Patriots. I got questions about the Patriots offense. And I want to start off with Mac Jones. I am not a believer in Mac Jones. I know Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl last year. And last year, he had some decent numbers. He had 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 3,801 passing yards, completing 68% of his passes. But similar to how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac Jones is a game manager. And when you compare him to his competition at the quarterback position that he's going to be facing in the AFC, he just doesn't measure up to these quarterbacks that I'm about to name. Even in his own division, let's just stay in his own division when we compare Mac Jones to the other quarterbacks. Mac Jones is not better than Josh Allen. He's not better than Tua. He might be better than Zach Wilson, maybe. I want to see what kind of progress Zach Wilson makes in his sophomore season. But you go to the AFC West, Mac Jones isn't better than any of the AFC West quarterbacks. He's not better than Patrick Mahomes, not better than Russell Wilson, not better than Justin Herbert, and he's not better than Derek Carr. AFC North. He's not better than Joe Burrow. He's not better than Lamar Jackson. He's not better than Deshaun Watson. And then you go to the AFC South. He's not better than Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill. They're all better than Mac Jones. So when I compare Mac Jones to his competition at the quarterback position and his counterparts, I just don't think that Mac Jones measures up to be good enough to lead the New England Patriots to the postseason. Not to mention, I don't like the New England Patriots skill position players. And they're very highly compensated, but they're not very good. You look at their skill position players. You got Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. This is the highest paid receiving corps in the NFL. And none of these receivers that I just named are a true number 1 receiver. They're not a true number 1 receiver. Not one. I'm not even sure they got a true number 2 receiver. Tyquan Thornton, Christian Wilkerson. Who are these dudes? So I got my questions about Mac Jones. I got my questions about their skill position players. And I haven't even gotten to the fact that they no longer have Josh McDaniels as their offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels, he took the job in Las Vegas. And so now Matt Patricia is the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Earlier in the preseason, Bill Belichick, he didn't know if he wanted Matt Patricia or Joe Judge to call plays for the offense. They were going back and forth to see who's going to be the play caller for the Patriots offense once this regular season begins. Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. And both Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, their strength is not offense. Matt Patricia got the Detroit Lions job because of his defensive mindset and him knowing defense. Joe Judge is not an offensive coordinator. That's not his expertise. So I got questions about Mac Jones. I got questions about their skill position players. And I got questions about their offensive coordinators. These guys have never called plays. And offense is not their expertise. And then you look at the New England Patriots' first 4 games. It's brutal. At Miami, at Pittsburgh, home against the Ravens, and they're at Green Bay. I could easily see the Patriots starting off the season 1-3. Easily. They can start off the season 1-3. Call into the show, 513-203-8655, 513-203-8655. What's your expectations for the New England Patriots this year? I don't have very much high expectations for the Patriots this year. I really, really don't. I like their defense. I think they made a mistake letting J.C. Jackson walk in free agency. But even with a great defense, you got to be able to score points in today's NFL. I watched the playoff game last year between the Patriots and the Bills. and I saw Josh Allen every time he got the football on every possession, the Buffalo Bills scored a touchdown. Every single possession, they scored a touchdown. And I watched that game, and that's what made me believe that Mac Jones is not good enough. I saw Josh Allen every single possession score a touchdown in that game. And Mac Jones just could not keep pace with Josh Allen. He couldn't do it. He could not do it. So what did the Bills score in that game? 47 points. The Bills put a beat down on the New England Patriots, 47-17. So again, I like their defense. Bill Belichick, he knows his defense, but I don't think their defense is going to be able to overcome the offensive struggles. I think they're going to struggle offensively. I really, really do. And I got the New England Patriots under 8.5. And it's crazy because Vegas, they have projected the Patriots to only be better than these four teams: the Texans, Jets, Jags, Steelers. Those are the only four teams in the AFC that Vegas expects the Patriots to be better than. And I agree. Texans, Jags, Jets, Steelers. That's it. So, Pat fans, you might want to get ready for a rough road this season. Now, let's go and talk about the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins over-under is 8.5 as well. I am high on this Miami Dolphins team. They brought in Mike McDaniels, who was previously under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So I assume that McDaniels knows what he's doing. And when he took the job in Miami, I love the fact that he gave Tua confidence that he believed in him. Now, I understand why in years prior, when they had Brian Flores as their head coach, who I believe should have never gotten fired in Miami, but that's another conversation for another day. I understand why Brian Flores wanted Deshaun Watson, because last few years, we had reports like every week out of Miami about how the Miami Dolphins are trying to get into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. And Brian Flores did not believe in Tua. And I've had my questions about Tua as well. I'll get to him in a minute. But I do love the fact that McDaniels, when he got the job in Miami, one of the first things that he did was he called Tua Tagovailoa and he told him, I think that does wonders for a young quarterback who has, to say it nicely, has struggled the first few years of his career. I love McDaniels for doing that. I really, really do. And you look at last year for Tua, he had 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 2,653 passing yards. He completed only 68% of his passes. I had an issue last year with Tua because there were times where Tua didn't even finish games. They had to bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick to finish games. And if you have to bring in your closer and Ryan Fitzpatrick has to save the day, that means you have an issue at the quarterback position. Brian Flores didn't believe in Tua, and I can't blame him. I can't blame him. It's not a good sign if I have to bring in another quarterback to close games. You are not a franchise quarterback if that happens. But here's the thing. This year is a put up or shut up year for Tua. They brought in Tyreek Hill. They still got Jalen Waddle, who had over 1,000 yards receiving last year. They signed Cedric Wilson in free agency, and they still got Mike Gesicki at tight end. They got running backs who are interchangeable in Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert and Myles Gaskin. So there are no excuses for Tua this season. No excuses. You got two receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who can easily have over 1,000 yards receiving this year. Easily. Both of these two burners in the open field are game changers. There are no excuses for Tua this year. None. In previous years, maybe he could have said he didn't have enough weapons, but you can't say that no more. You got plenty of weapons, Tua. It's a put up or shut up year for Tua. Now, let's talk about the Dolphins defense. They got a lot of young guys who are going to be older. So they're going to have more experience. And so I think they're going to be better on that side of the ball as well. In their secondary, they got Zadavian Howard, Byron Jones, Brandon Jones. Linebacker, you got Melvin Ingram, Elandon Roberts. So they should be better defensively as well. Now let's look at their first 4 games. Home against the Patriots, at Ravens, home against the Bills, at Bengals. That's a tough first 4 games for the Dolphins. Tough first 4 games. I can see them going maybe, they'll beat the Patriots, but the Ravens, Bills, Bengals are all games the Dolphins could lose. They could lose all 3 of those games. But here, the next 5 games, they're all winnable games for the Dolphins. At Jets, home against the Vikings, home against the Steelers, at Lions, at Bears. They'll beat the Jets, Steelers, Lions, and Bears. They'll beat all 4 of those teams, and they might beat the Vikings. That's a toss-up. Dolphins, Vikings is a toss-up. That can go either way. Tua versus Kirk Cousins can go either way. But tough first 4 games. Next 5 games are all winnable games. And in this AFC East, the biggest threat to the Buffalo Bills are the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to give my playoff predictions here in a few weeks, but I think the Miami Dolphins will have more than 8.5 wins. I got them over at 8.5. Vegas got the over-under for the Miami Dolphins at 8.5. I'm going to roll with over. I think they're going to win more than 8.5 games. The last 2 years, they've been on the cusp of being a playoff team. They're right there. They're right there close to being a playoff team. But I think that they are the biggest threats to the Buffalo Bills in the division. Now, I want to talk about the player in this division that could be an X factor. I think it's Jalen Waddle for the Miami Dolphins. Because the opposing defenses are going to try to take away Tyreek Hill. And you got to pick your poison with this Miami Dolphins team. You got Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Mike Gesicki at tight end. You got to pick your poison with this Miami Dolphins team. I think Jalen Waddle is a reliable number 2 option at receiver, and he can produce at a high level and have a breakout season for the Miami Dolphins. He could be a reliable target for Tua to throw the football to. Now, he came out of Alabama, and even in his rookie season, he was great last year. He had 104 receptions, 1,015 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. So even in his rookie season, he had over 1,000 yards receiving. So Jalen Waddle, similar to Tyreek Hill, he got that breakaway speed. He could take a 5-yard slant and go the distance. He's the X factor in this division because if he can have a breakout season and take some pressure off Tyreek Hill, I think that could help the Miami Dolphins get into the playoffs. I really, really believe that. I think Jalen Waddle is going to be the X factor in this division. I think the Buffalo Bills are the favorites to win the AFC East. But if Jalen Waddle has a breakout season and Tua has the best season so far in his career, the Miami Dolphins could contend in the AFC East and contend in the AFC. They could be real contenders in the AFC. We've been talking about all these other teams in the AFC: Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, and the Bills. We're going to have to include the Dolphins in that conversation if Jalen Waddle has a breakout season and if Tua has the best season of his career.